Hi there. Welcome, everybody. This is Ruth from PDA North America. We're so excited to have everybody join us today. And we're doing a 30-minute live Q&A with Asiatu on the dangers of compliance. So I will let Asiatu give themselves an introduction, and then we'll get started on our questions.
So my name's Asiatu, and I am a PDA autistic abolitionist, educator, coach. I also have ADHD as well as other neuro variation. And I center all of my coaching and all of my education within intersectionality and specifically prioritizing and centering Blackness and Black lived experiences and building community amongst other people via knowledge, compassion, acceptance, inclusion, and all the things. And as far as my education goes, I have a degree in sociology from Spelman College, and I worked with many different organizations and peoples, including Amnesty International, British Office, as well as different colleges. And you can find all my information. It's all out there, either on my website, asiatucoach.com, or on IG, asiatu.coach, or you can find me on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our questions here. Again, the topic that we're having Asiatu cover today is the dangers of compliance. So our first question is, how can we clearly, easily, and respectfully communicate to others, like school staff and family, the dangers and ineffectiveness of compliance-based practices, especially when they're interacting with our PDA child?
So that's a lot, one question. So I'll just basically give a foundational answer, and the answer to that is just education. Constantly having those conversations and dialogues with different, communities, family members to shift the narrative of what PDA actually is. I always tell parents specifically, if there's tension of your child amongst like family members or school, to have a open dialogue and see it as an opportunity to educate. And I know that it's really annoying and has a lot of like emotional and mental labor that is placed on the oppressed person, but the reality of the situation is it's not going to change without people being educated, and people are willfully ignorant and have been socialized with behaviorism and numerous manifestations. Like it's literally a thread of American culture and society, behaviorism. So when I speak to behaviorism, I'm not just speaking to ABAs within that context. That is just one of many. Their behaviorism literally starts in utero when we're conceived. As far as gender roles and gender concepts, that's behaviorism. Or the fact that in school and school age kids, you're punished for certain behaviors and then praised for others, but you are usually, it's from the standpoint of, we want you to comply to this way of existing or this way of learning, otherwise you're going to be penalized. Even in the concept of grades is behaviorism, in the sense that you do and perform and basically regurgitate knowledge in a specific manner, and the way in which they want, and you get points for it, and the higher the points, the better you are a student. And then also children equate that to their value. So, and then it just continues into the workforce and just parenting and all the things. So behaviorism exists in everything, every aspect of society. Or even the fact that we get fines for speeding or whatever the case is, which is basically just penalizing the poor. As long as it's something that is financially like connected, then the only people that you're really truly punishing are the people that don't have the money, not the people that have the money. Again, behaviorism. So yeah, when I speak to behaviorism, it's systemic, and the only way in which to actually protect is to educate and to advocate for your children, and don't stop. And if certain levels aren't reacting or responding to you in the way in which you like, go above the next person. Just keep on going up the ladder until you are heard. I also say the other thing is, if you have the access, if you have the knowledge, to find other parents other parents who are PDA or who are raising PDA kids, and there's power in numbers and everything. And I always say that all the time, which is why community is so important and empowering, which is why capitalism is always trying to deter us from coming together, because they know that there's power in numbers and the masses. And it's empowering to be around other people for the same cause. So those would be my answers: is, educate and find community, pretty much.
Great, thank you for that. Our next question is, how do we parent our PDA kid with other siblings? Do we parent all our kids as low demand or show no favoritism?
So it would depend on the situation. Generally, I would say that we're all individuals, right? So you want to interact and engage with your kids based on their individual needs. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a blanket statement. It doesn't make sense to me, like logically, like it's illogical for me to, like, we're all individuals, even outside of PDA, outside of autism. No two people are exactly alike. Even twins are different. So, and I've actually worked with a lot of twins. So yeah, just from a parent standpoint, you want your child's needs met, and whatever language or whatever behaviors that they're receptive to receiving is what you want to do. So I know for, like, me and my brother are 17 months apart, but we are so different, so completely different. And he's physically, mentally, emotionally. And so my parents did, and then there's always the unfortunately the realities of gender playing a role. And so, like, you don't necessarily, parent certain genders a certain way just because there's certain things that they have to understand. Like, from my brother's standpoint, he had to understand that he had to look out for me because there's certain dangers that I will, encounter not being a boy, and for him to be protective, as opposed to teaching me also to have an understanding of vigilance as well, because obviously there are things that are more likely to happen to me than happen to him. And so to me, you just have to cater to that individual child and what their needs are. I'm not one who is a physical person, and my brother was. So he needed way more physical affection, and I needed more words of affirmation. Again, so I think it just depends. So to answer the question, no, I don't think there should be any kind of blanket, like, like, interaction with them. And but also, don't perceive it as favoritism either, because it's not favoritism. It's kind of like, if you have two kids and one who, needs glasses, you don't say that, okay, well, we're going to give them glasses, and that's showing them favoritism. It's a matter of just meeting their needs. And so as long as they have, needs that you can meet in whatever capacity, like my brother didn't need glasses, I did. That doesn't mean that, like, okay, taking me to the ophthalmologist getting glasses is favoritism because they're catering to me. It's more so that I have a need that he doesn't. And so therefore it needs to be met.
Thank you. That resonated a lot with me because I am a twin, autistic as well, and I have PDA twins as well. So there is a lot of proof in the pudding that twins also are very different and need to be parented in different ways.
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate that answer. Um, Here's a question. I believe that I am autistic and I have always had a strong compulsion to fawn. I have worked hard to break this ingrained pattern, but still feel intense guilt when I do not comply with what others want. How do I stop feeling afraid and guilty when I resist the urge to comply?
So again, my answer is community. Which is why I always hate the saying that you can't love or be loved unless you love yourself. No, we learn to love ourselves within community. We learn to love ourselves in reflections of community, because those closest to us are reflections of who we are. So a lot of us, especially autistics, are more apt to see ourselves via other people. And so if we, like, when people recognize that we respect and that we honor and we value and recognize things within ourselves, then it makes us feel validated, and therefore we feel more secure. So to me, it sounds like it's more so you don't have enough of a support system in your life that supports you, celebrates you, and sees you for who you are and your authentic self, which then leaves you in a deficit, so that when you are in other situations, you want and seek that validation. And so the way to end that is to see value within yourself. And I know for us, because we struggle with that as far as self-perception at times, finding community is the best way to heal that. And seeing other people who are just like you, who are thriving, or seeing other people who are just like you, hearing their feedback of who you are and the impact you have on them, gives you validation and comfort and security in who you are, and to be able to show up authentically in any space. And again, which is why capitalism is so anti-community, because the more isolated we are, the more easily we are to be manipulated and to suffer and then be dependent on the systems.
I'm choked up a little bit with that answer because I've spent my life fawning, and I've just recently been really showing up for myself in a really authentic way and finding a lot of that community. And that answer is so good. So thank you. I didn't write the question, but I could have. Um, I know it's not about me here either, people, but okay. How can special educators support autistic students and or students with a PDA profile in the classroom? How much compliance should be asked or expected of these students?
So the best way to help them is to educate yourself about PDA, from PDA resources, from people who are actually PDA. A lot of what is taught within special education is pathologized and autismophobic and oppressive and all the things. So it's like that community, more so than anybody, needs to actually engage the most outside of parents, with the autistic community, to have an understanding of how the things that they were taught problematic. Case in point, I don't understand why in 2024 and we still have special ed. It's not special. Like, we all have the same needs of education, and then, isolating us or separating us to the extent of it being special, you have saviorism, and then you have, inspiration porn as byproducts, which are both in and of itself. So nobody has needs that, like, there's nothing that, and I wish people would understand this, there's nothing outside of like human behavior that is so isolated to like one individual, like that person. It has never happened before in all of humanity and will never happen again. It does not exist. So everything about human behavior is a spectrum, regardless of neurotype. So you will not ever meet two people who are identically the same, because we are individuals. We need community, yes, but our individual perceptions, experiences, socialization, trauma, all those things change things. Just like you can have two kids, identical twins in the same childhood, come out completely different, who had the same exact childhood. Because again, we are not the same. So to have this expectation that all autistics or all PDA or all the things, we have to get out of that mentality of wanting to serve in a sense where it's blankets, where it's factories. We have to shift our understanding and our perception and the foundation of just education as a whole to be much more inclusive and much more individualized, and to also help peers understand that, and then to show kids and be the example of inclusion. Because I think a lot of it, part of the issue is it's the hierarchy of, okay, here's the teacher and here are the students. But in all actuality, it's more so, it should be, here's the teacher and here's the students. Because it's a collaboration. Education is a collaboration. Anything of social is a collaboration. And so we have to start at that basic understanding. So it's not a matter of compliance or not compliance. It's a matter of, what do these kids need? What do they need to feel validated, to feel seen, to feel safe, to advocate for themselves, to feel safe, to show up to school, to not feel harmed or burnt out? Like, those are the types of questions. Or even within IEP, how can we change the language so it's not pathologizing these children? It's not having the expectation of, I want them to do this behavior, they're not doing it, how can I make them do it? That's not teaching. That is literally just abuse. And which is why you have so many kids, specifically PDA, who are in autistic burnout in teenage years and or 20s and or 30s or all of the above, because we don't have safe spaces. So the easiest and the most profound thing that you can do for anybody under any circumstance is to be a safe space. And in order for that to happen, you have to educate yourself on other lived experiences in which you don't share, from a perspective of care and from the resource of which is what you're looking for. So if you want to learn about autistics, go to Autistics. If you want to learn about OCD, go to people who have OCD. Like if you want to learn about the Black community, go to the Black community. So we have to also deconstruct this, colonizer mentality of whiteness is the only place that you can get information and understanding of everything and all things. That's just entitlement. And it's caucasity and ego and privilege. And so we're now just starting to realize collectively that a lot of what we've been taught and what we've been, educated is whitewashed history. It's not accurate. And the tool and the purpose of it is to erase other people's experiences. So just being open to hearing, living, understanding, perceiving people from their standpoint, from their community, and just educating yourself directly from that community will just be huge in how you interact and how you engage. And then you can also check your biases as well, because your perception should shift with the more knowledge that you learn and the more you engage with people, and you humanize them. Essentially humanize people in general. Like white culture has dehumanized everybody else who isn't white. So it's not until you actually start engaging and listening and empathizing and connecting on an emotional level, people start becoming, and communities become humanized.
I could just listen to you all day long. All right. That was a wonderful answer once again. Another question is, how do we protect our children from being punished in school without teaching them compliance?
You have to work with actual teachers, and you have to work with the system in a way which advocates for your child. The responsibility shouldn't be put on the child. That in and of itself is the problem. It's kind of like what I hate when I would see programs specifically teaching Black kids how to engage with the police. And I'm like, the Black kids aren't the problem. We could do everything right, and our kids will still get killed. And it's the same thing in the sense of you can do everything right as a student, and the teacher still misperceive you because they see you through their own biases, which is their responsibility. And so putting that responsibility on the child isn't fair to them. So it has nothing to do with your child. It has to do with you as a parent or a guardian to advocate and to create and to educate. And again, if they're not listening within the classroom, you go to the next level. You go to the principal. The principal's not listening to you, you go to the next level, and you keep going. Then, like I said, if you connect with other people who are experiencing the same thing, especially parents, then the more of a collective that you have, the more power and the more influence that you have, that they'll more likely respond in a way that will be helpful. Because a lot of the times they try to silence and stop the individual families by basically just saying that it's too much, or we can't do this just for like one student, like, which is ridiculous because you should. That's still the whole purpose of education, is to be inclusive, but we're not anywhere near that yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully getting there, but I don't know. I don't have much faith in systems within the US.
Yeah. Someone just asked a quick question in the chat that I'll address. They said, we're struggling with finding our community in New Orleans and in the surrounding area. Do you have any recommendations on how to go about locating others like us? Maybe you can speak to this as well, but just from our perspective from PDA North America, we do offer a lot of support groups. They're not localized yet. We are looking to hopefully build more localized groups in the future. I think we have like one of our first localized group, which is a Richmond, Virginia group. But if it's something you're interested in, absolutely reach out to us, and maybe we could even just put it out there and see if people flock to it. And then the other thing we have is we do have a community list that on our website where people from around the nation have been just saying like, hey, I'm looking for people in my area. So it's literally like a self-generated list of, there's a quick form you fill out and it sorts itself, or Erica, my lovely Erica that's on the call here, will sort the list as well. And we have it sorted by location. So it's one place that we've tried to create more community as well for people that aren't able to find it locally. But I don't know if you wanted to quickly address that, Asiatu.
And it includes Canada. Just want to say.
Oh, yes, as well.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. North America.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I strongly suggest that. And I know for me, as far as people that I have helped connect is also in Facebook groups. I know a lot of them are very toxic, trust and believe. So just be prepared for that. But you do find certain people, if you like engage or just if you watch and see how people interact, then you'll be able to find people. I'm actually working on something, so I won't say any details yet, but yeah, there's a project of mine that's coming out at some point. But yes, that is something that I want to start creating community outside of social media, specifically for autistic and neurovariant people, because that obviously is our greatest weakness and also our greatest strength, in the sense that, you know, once we're together and we're connected, we literally can save lives. It's the isolation that, for anybody, but specifically autistics, that is so disheartening and hurtful for us. So yeah. So stay tuned. And also, yeah. And also what Ruth said. And there's some sites that you can get like connect to other parents and things of that nature. But again, it's all individualized, and like I said, unfortunately, so many are so toxic and mainstream. So just got to be careful with that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I look forward
Outside of
to
PDA, of course, because we're actually PDAers, but in general, a lot of parents, you know, groups tend to be very autismophobic.
We're gonna
Unfortunately.
keep our eyes on you and see what you announce soon. So let's see here. I pulled up the website and now I can't find my list of questions. Here it is. Okay. What do we answer relatives who tell us they are worried their child will never hold a job because they are not compliant? While you think about it, I'll just say we do have about 4 minutes left, so we can probably do this question, and if you have time for another, we will. If not, we'll cut it off.
So I would say, first and foremost, we have to change our perspective of support via a capitalistic lens. The reality of the situation is, as I always say, mental health of any kind is not an individual failing, it is a community issue. Nobody can make it out here alone. Like, we are social creatures. Humans are contrary to what humans and capitalism has indoctrinated everybody to believe, we are social creatures. We are hardwired to be connected. We are hardwired to be compassionate. We are hardwired to be inclusive. It is socialization and colonizer and culture and indoctrination of whiteness and systemic white insecurity that teaches you otherwise. And if you are anybody who has young kids and or has been around young kids, you see that in evidence that there are many years before the child is indoctrinated into the mainstream, but they are naturally compassionate. They're naturally curious. They naturally want to help. They want to support because they care. So with that being said, it's not about independence from the standpoint of that should not be the goal. The goal should be is how can we teach this child to exist in this world and be happy, be kind, be compassionate, be content, be curious, you know, and not all those things die from socialization. And the best way you can do that is to be their example, is to support them as they are, as their authentic self, to make them feel proud and to celebrate their autism, to not pathologize autism, to not just see them as what they can't do, but all the beautiful, wonderful things they thrive at. And to also help them know that community exists because you are their community. So if you exist, then you're being the example of which they'll look for when they're older. So however you engage with that child and however their guardians and their family engages with that child is the type of people that they're going to look for when they're adults and they're independent. Or even if they're not independent, they're going to see that as the norm. And so what you want to do as someone who cares is to show them that it's okay to be who they are, regardless of productivity. Productivity should not be the measure of someone's value, period. And You don't know how somebody is going to be. Nobody can predict how a child is going to be as an adult. There is no guarantee either way that a child will either be independent or not be independent. It is literally up in the air. And one of the things that I've encountered, and I'm sure a lot of autistics encounter, especially when it comes to like autism moms, is that they'll try to use the excuse, well, you don't know what it's like to be my child because you can do all these things. Like you can, speak, you went to college, all these things. You don't know what I was like as a child. This is who I am, decades of masking, of learning, of trying, of suffering, all the things. So you can't project what that person is going to be capable of or not capable of. And all you can do in this moment is make sure that they feel so loved, so secure, so seen, so validated that they can thrive to their greatest potential. And then that they know to seek other people who actually care for them, who will help them in whatever way that they need when they're older. So you have to help facilitate their community by being the example and helping them connect to other people who care about them just as much. And it sounds so simple, but I don't know why it's so difficult for people, because I'm like, nobody's meant to be alone. Nobody wakes up and it's just like, and gets older, it's just like, yes, I want to die alone with no support whatsoever, because I can do everything all by myself. I don't need a family, I don't need friends, I'm just an island. Nobody says that because it's unrealistic. So the best thing is to help them learn community, to help them know community, to help them know what healthy community is and healthy relationships are, and to know that who they are is wonderful and amazing. And like I said, you never know. I never thought that I'd be doing the work that I am doing. Like, I didn't want to do sociological anything after I graduated for many years. And I ended up working with children for a decade in various capacities. And then I ended up doing what I'm doing now and going back to my degree. And then I also didn't think that, like, I got to a point where I was burnt out and I couldn't work for other people. So I was just like, okay, well, I can't work for other people. So what can I do? How can I do it my way? And that's the thing about being autistic, especially PDA and or ADHD, is that, if we don't see a way, we'll make one. Like, there's always options and loopholes that people can be without having to be the typical or the norm, especially if ADHD is involved as far as the creativity and the outside of the box thinking. And, we don't do well by working for others, and that's okay. So if you know that your child is that type of person who has these strengths and this creativity, and, play to that, play to their strengths, play to their creativity, their passion, their curiosities, so that, they will have other things that they're interested in. And it's not just a matter of, oh, well, but I need you to work a 9 to 5. Some of the most influential people of society either dropped out of school, never went to school, or, hated school, or was forced outside of school. You know what I mean? So it's not like the impact shouldn't be about productivity and independence. The impact should be creating a space and supporting someone into being a good community member, and to being kind, and to have compassion, and to have connection to others.
Ugh, I don't think we need to ask any more questions, because that was just like, that was the icing on the cake. I want to give you a platform that the whole world can hear with a loud microphone and everybody needs to listen to Asiatu. And we are so grateful for your time today, and so grateful for you answering all these questions with your lived experience and all of your wonderful knowledge. And we look forward to doing more stuff with you in the future. So thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who was here today, and we will make sure to send out a recording very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And this is the type of stuff that I love. Like, I live for stuff like this. Like, I like answering questions directly so that people get the information as quickly and directly as possible. So I would love to do more of these, and just in general, and have more people ask questions, and just make it a regular thing, because my ADHD brain is just like, yes, and it's never the same, and it's always something new, and it's on the spot, and it's just like, I'm so happy right now.
We're going to take you up on that.
Yeah.
This was
I'm
really
all for it.
powerful.
Yeah.
I love this. This is the type of work I love doing. Like,
really
I love
it.
this.
Yeah, I
So
feel
thank you for having me.
cheery from this. I mean, it's been
Aw.
so beautiful, really. Yeah,
Thank you.
Truly.
I appreciate that.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Asiatu, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Bye.